Okay, now we can start.
Morning. Okay, friends, welcome to the Interfaith Prayer and Discussion number 181. We have a distinguished speaker tonight. We start with the music, chanting music, number 1 and 2, and then 7 readings, and then a closing music and chant, and then I will introduce our speaker.
So Ian, would you please honor the indigenous people and
So we honor and acknowledge honoring the indigenous land and peoples. So there is a widespread acknowledgement that these present-day structures of society are ill-prepared to address the needs of humanity in its current travails. Much that was widely assumed to be certain and unshakable is being questioned, and the resulting ferment is producing a longing for a unifying vision. The chorus of voices raised in support of oneness, equality, and justice shows how many share these aspirations for their societies, from Ridvan Message 2023, Universal House of Justice. And we acknowledge and pay respect to the past, present, and future traditional custodians and elders of this nation we call Australia, and the continuation of cultural, spiritual, and educational practices of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. We acknowledge Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander tribes were the first sovereign nations of the Australian continent. The Gadigal of the Eora Nation are the traditional custodians of this place we now call Sydney, and Wangal people are traditional owners of Burwood.
Siva, we can't hear the music. Siva, there is a problem. We can't hear the music.
Can't hear the music.
Oppressors on earth, withdraw your hands from tyranny, for I have pledged myself not to forgive any man's injustice. This is my covenant, which I have irrevocably decreed in the preserved tablet, and sealed it with my seal of glory. This is my covenant, which I have irrevocably decreed in the preserved tablet, and sealed it with my seal of glory, of glory, of glory, of glory, of glory. This is my covenant.
O my friend, listen with heart and soul to the songs of the Spirit, and treasure them as thine own eyes. For the heavenly wisdoms, like the clouds of spring, will not rain down on the earth of men's hearts forever. And though the grace of the All-Bounteous One is never stilled and never ceasing, yet to each time and era a portion is allotted and a bounty set apart, this in a given measure. Baha'u'llah.
Listen, I tell thee for thy comfort this: give me thy heart, adore me, serve me, cling in faith and love and reverence to me. So shalt thou come to me. I promise thee, for thou art sweet to me. Holy Scripture, Bhagavad Gita.
Let the wise listen and add to their learning, and let the discerning get guidance. For understanding proverbs and parables, the sayings and riddles of the wise. Jewish scripture, Proverbs 1.
Application and initiative nourish wealth. Adornment and decoration nourish beauty. Suitable activity nourishes health. Good friendship nourishes ethical conduct. Sense restraint nourishes the spiritual life. Honesty nourishes friends. Reciting nourishes learning. Eagerness to listen and ask questions nourishes wisdom. Commitment and reviewing nourish good qualities. Right practice nourishes heaven. These 10 things nourish the 10 likable, desirable, and agreeable things that are rare in the world. Buddhist scripture, Sutta Pitaka.
My dear brothers and sisters, Take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry, because human nature does not produce the righteousness that God desires. Christian Scripture, James 1:19-20.
When they listened to what had been revealed to the messenger, you see their eyes overflowing with tears for recognizing the truth. They say, "O Lord, we believe, so count us among the witnesses." Quran, verse 5 of 83.
Hearken thou unto my call from the horizon of my prison, in the midst of mine adversaries. Verily, there is none other God but him, the ever forgiving, the most bountiful. He hath truly hearkened unto the divine verses, who ariseth to perform that which befitteth him. Many are the souls who have listened, but are not accounted by the Almighty as having heard. True listening consisteth in man's first perceiving with the ear of his spirit the call of the All-Merciful, and then remaining so steadfast in observing the divine precept and command that were he to witness from the peoples of the world naught save denial, enmity, and rejection. He would in no wise be deflected from walking in the straight path of God. Well is it with them that attain. Baha'i Scripture, Baha'u'llah.
I can hear the voices singing, chanting behind the walls, locked away in their prison cells, and they've done nothing at all. Their courage makes us stronger, their quiet resolve gives us wings. All the suffering they endure will only the blessings bring. And we're here for you, standing in serried lines. Let our thoughts and prayers wash over you and comfort you in the cold night. The door is locked and the key is gone. Your loved ones cry out in pain. Where is the justice? Where is the law? Yet you patiently remain. Can you feel the millions of souls, your brothers and sisters in song? Cannot extinguish the light in our hearts. The fire of love's burning strong. And we're here for you, standing in serried lines. Let our thoughts You can hear the sound of chanting escape from her cell. A prayer for forgiveness. She's wishing her captors well. The prisoners of Tehran, their freedom denied. How we long for your release, when you can take back your lives. You can take them and shroud them in darkness. You can tear them away from their lives, but you will never break down the doors to their faithful hearts and minds. You can take them and shroud them in darkness. You can tear them away from their lives, but you will never break down the doors to their faithful hearts and minds. You can take them and shroud them in darkness. You can tear them away from their lives, but you will never break down the doors to their faithful hearts and minds. You can take them and shroud them in darkness. You can tear them away from their lives, but you will never break down the doors to the faithful hearts and minds.
Thank you for the friends that read those prayers. Before I introduce our speaker tonight, I'd like to mention that this week is the anniversary of the execution of 10 young women in Iran because of not recounting their faith in Baha'i faith. So this is their anniversary this week. And the last prayer that was read in music, I think because that reminds us to them. Now, today's Interfaith Forum discussion night, our speaker is, if I can pronounce the surname correctly, Ian Epandulan, or Epandulan. The topic of the night is being a voice for refugees and asylum seekers. Let me tell you a little bit about Ian. He's a volunteer youth leader of the Lourdes Illuminate Young Adult Group and participates in the music ministry as a choir member in Catholic Diocese of Parramatta. He's an executive member and youth advisor for the Central Deanery Pastoral Council, member of the Filipino Chaplaincy Pastoral Council, and has been involved in a member of Social Justice and Affordable Housing Steering Committee. He is currently the chair of the Sydney Alliance Voices for Power Northwest Caucus, where through inter-religious dialogue provides a platform for voices of diverse ethical and cultural leaders to take lead in finding solutions with the pressure of energy prices and the effects of climate change in our local communities. He's also a member of the Blacktown network of faith communities in which people from different faiths come together to pray and work together in solidarity on local initiatives. He's also a past vice president of the Catholic Asian Study Student Society, which provides opportunities for university students from the various universities to continue to grow in their faith whilst studying at university. Last is coordinator of the Young Venice Society and is currently a Venice Van volunteer and conference member. He hopes to continue to draw inspiration from those around him, whom he serves with, to help journey alongside and inspire more young people to be alive and active in the Catholic faith. I welcome Ian and I'll hand the floor to him.
Thank you so much, Ahmad, for the introduction. Didn't need to be read all, but anyhow, thank you so much. And I'd like to also acknowledge two members that have joined this meeting this evening. So Julie Hungerford from the Uniting Church of Australia, and as part of the Blacktown Network of Faith Communities, and also a dear friend, Father Andrew Mutabusi, who's tuned all the way in from Africa, a good friend of mine. So thank you for your moral support this evening. So as you know, this evening I'll be talking about being a voice or an advocate for refugees and asylum seekers. Hopefully you'll be able to see my screen there. So just a bit on the key objectives. We'll talk about on our beliefs, united in dignity of every human being, the important sense of belonging when coming to a new country, the current situation of refugees and asylum seekers, and how can we respond as people of different faiths working together. So the first question is, who are asylum seekers and refugees? An asylum seeker is a person who has fled their own country and applied for protection as a refugee. And according to the United Nations Convention relating to the status of refugees, a refugee is a person who is outside their own country and is unable or unwilling to return due to a well-founded fear of being persecuted because of their race, religion, nationality, membership of a particular social group, or political opinion. And now just talking about the principle of human dignity. And I guess as a Catholic, what does the Catholic Church say about human dignity? And it so originates from human dignity originating from God, and it is of God because as Catholics or as Christians, we are made in God's own image and likeness, which is found in Genesis. And human life is sacred because the human person is the most central and clearest reflection of God among us. And human beings have transcendent worth and value that comes from God. This dignity is not based on any human quality, legal mandate, or individual merit or accomplishment. Human dignity is inalienable, and that means it is an essential part of every human being and is an intrinsic quality that can never be separated from other essential aspects of the human person. Human beings are qualitatively different from any other human being in the world because they are capable of knowing and loving God, unlike any other creature. And so belief in the dignity of the human person is the foundation of morality. The principle of human dignity is the foundation of all Catholic social teaching principles. So as mentioned there, every human person is sacred and the dignity of the person is important. And as Christians, as I said earlier, we are made in the image of and likeness of God. And so that this is important because we should treat everyone equal. And our human rights and all our conventions derive from the importance of human dignity. And perhaps in our everyday lives, we see the homeless, the sick, the hungry, in all different aspects in our world. Perhaps in your mind, could you imagine not having the security of having all of these basic aspects? Humanity and dignity is what combines all of us together as humans. And in this country of Australia, we believe in the human dignity of the person, and we oppose the death sentence as an example of that. We need to treat each individual that we encounter with the right respect, the dignity, and that also includes refugees and people seeking asylum. And as Christians, it's not about what you do, but what you are, because as you said here, we're made in the image and likeness of God. So therefore, all human beings are sacred. And for Christians, for us as Christians, Christ identifies as being one of us, as being human in all our sufferings. And he saves us through his death and resurrection in our belief. And so that reaffirms that he saves all, and that as humans ourselves, we should strive to be like Christ as well. So the question I ask is, why should we care? And everything about equality that derives from this statement here is that we believe in the dignity of each individual, and we should treat everyone as a human being. And our duty is to restore each individual's dignity, the refugees, the asylum seekers, and to uphold the dignity of that individual. And so that is our responsibility. And every human being experiences joy, sorrow. And so as part of the human experience, we experience those sorts of things. And the concept of human dignity has no boundary, whether it's your color, your race, your religion, or whatever. But how do we respond to this? How do we respond to the principle of human dignity? And that's about listening and suffering, listening to the cries and the sufferings of each of these individuals, hearing their stories, hearing their sorrows, their joys. And it gives us an opportunity as people of faith to help alleviate from their sufferings in our relationships with each other, our families, our friends, and our brothers and sisters, those who have come overseas into this country. But we can only do that if we can see and hear their sufferings. Perhaps we might be challenged that we're not doing enough, or maybe we're not hearing or seeing these things. But it should be something that should motivate us to continue to promote the principle of human dignity, hearing their story and understanding their suffering. So hopefully, as an opportunity, we might be able to listen to their stories, and that is covered in the Golden Rule. And as you can see in this image here, all our different faiths coming together all have the Golden Rule principle of how to treat one another as each other. Pope Francis called for In This World Day of Refugees today as an opportunity to turn an attentive and fraternal gaze to all those who are forced to flee their homes in search of peace and security. And we are called to welcome, promote, accompany, and integrate those who knock on our doors. He also added that, I pray that states will strive to ensure humane conditions for refugees and to facilitate integration processes. So this is just an image here of Pope Francis when he was flying back to Rome. He gathered some refugees, I believe they were from Turkey or from Middle East, and then brought them over to settle and provide in Italy. So here, I guess in Catholic teaching, Pope Francis also reminds us that the flight of the Holy Family calls us to mind the sufferings of the many men, women, and children escaping from war and persecution. And he said it's a time of awakening and charity for us to reflect on the situation so that men, women, and children of our time, migrants, refugees, displaced persons, who are marching on to escape wars and misery caused by social injustice and climate change, just like many migrants and refugees in our world today. The Holy Family experienced the anguish of persecution when fleeing to Egypt. And the little Jesus reminds us that half of today's refugees in the world are children, blameless victims of human injustice. And this is just an image of Mary and Joseph and the child Jesus in Mary's womb. As Christians, we believe this important story of the Holy Family of Nazareth fleeing from Egypt is just an example of how our faith really expresses in today's times. And I guess for the Baha'i faith teaching on refugees and asylum seekers, the promulgation of the Universal Peace by Abdul Baha, may you all be united, may you be agreed, may you serve the solidarity of mankind, may you be well-wishers of all humanity, may you be sources of comfort to the broken in heart, may you be a refuge for the wanderer, may you be a source of courage to the affrighted one. Thus, through the favor and assistance of God, may the standard of the happiness of humanity be held aloft in the center of the world, and the ensigns of universal agreement be unfurled. For Buddhists, I asked a good colleague of mine, Asha Ramzan from the Sydney Community Forum. Buddhists believe we live in an interdependent world, and the idea of us and them is an illusion. The air you breathe out is the air I breathe in. This is an irrefutable fact born out of the recent pandemic. So practicing loving kindness and radical compassion to ourselves as well as others is how we are asked to live. And similarly, the United Church of Australia has a statement since its inception in 1977 for a commitment to justice and reconciliation between people, advocacy and community services in the expression of the belief that every individual is equal before God. So what about the importance of belongingness for migrants, refugees, and asylum seekers so that they can they can feel that they're important members of society? So what we want to look at society is not just a random bunch of different communities all segregated, but rather all intertwined together and mixing with each other. That is what we want our society to look at. This was just some information from the ABS census data about an experience that's shared by many. So 51% of overseas born or the first generation of migrants have at least one parent or one parent born overseas. So we can see that this country of Australia is a land of migrants. And migrants contribute a lot to Australia, $330 billion to the gross domestic produce of their country. And many of them are educated and are early adopters of technology, etc. And we know that we, in this country, come from many cultural and linguistically diverse backgrounds. And there's an increased number of different communities coming into Australia. And you can see that Australia's population has increased diversely by 18%. So as cultural and different linguistic communities, we can see that new migrants, when they come to this country, have great aspirations. And so we have an opportunity and an obligation to make them feel welcome. So you can see here in the beginnings, they come in, they realize what's it like to be in Australia. There are a few road bumps on the way, but a sense of belonging is important when new migrants, people seeking asylum, and refugees come to this country. And this is just some information here about the needs and the supports of individuals when they come to this country. And you can see that rental support, healthcare, employment support, relationships, all those sorts of things are so vital. And as part of Australian society, we should offer or be able to assist in those needs. So belonging is not about disappearing into Australian culture. It's about bringing of cultures to help individuals find their own equilibrium. And this is just a little bit on when new migrants, how they shift from their understanding what's important to them. And family values are the most important things. And then it goes towards all the other things. So family values, religion, food, spirituality, celebrations, and a sense of humor are always the most important things. So what are Australia's human rights obligations towards asylum seekers and refugees? And we have an obligation to protect the human rights of all asylum seekers and refugees who arrive in Australia, regardless of how or where they arrive and whether they arrive with or without a visa. So we are a party to the Refugees Convention. So we ensure as a nation that we meet the United Nations definition of refugee, to not send individuals back whether their life or freedom would be threatened. And then this is a little bit on the Migration Act. So just a little bit on the bottom part here, immigration detention in Australia is indefinite, and there's no limit in law or policy to the length or time for which a person may be detained. So some asylum seekers and refugees spend long periods of time in immigration detention waiting for their refugee claim to be assessed. So it's the reality of what we're seeing at the moment in Australia. And then there are laws that keep changing. As of 2012, the Australian government has said that the principle of no advantage applies regardless of whether they are taken to a regional processing country or given ministerial exemption or remain in Australia. So this waiting period for people who come to this country may be in excess of more than 5 years. And we look at Australia's immigration intake in 2012, and we look at how the rest of the world is, we only take a very small amount of refugees into this country, about 2.2%. And our share is quite small. And the percentage of asylum seekers who arrive by boat is actually only 10%. So most refugees that come to this country are genuine and are in need of help. And this is just a little bit on the world comparisons of asylum claims. And Australia has a small portion, and places such as Europe and in America have much higher intakes. And the most refugee hosting countries include Pakistan and Iran and Lebanon, and Australia plays a small part in that. And as of March 2023, there are over 100,000 people seeking asylum living in the Australian community. And you only have to look at the most recent Australian data, where 124,000 people came to Australia in 2021, and of those, only 11,000 were given refugee status. So it shows that there's a small proportion. It's a little bit on bridging visas, but we can skip that. But basically, most people, when they are coming here and they're not sure of their status, these visas are not really a permanent solution or gives them the forward direction of where they're going to be in the next 3 to 5 years. And we know that refugees have contributed to the Australian community, and we have a long history of humanitarian resettlement since World War II. And we know that refugees make an important contribution to Australia. And as I said before, a lot of us come from different cultural and linguistic diverse backgrounds. This is just an example from Amnesty Australia of a surgeon who fled from his country and had to restudy once again in Australia. But through all the hardships, he's now a very prominent surgeon here. So how can we respond as people of different faiths, different religions? We have different interfaith charters, and in 2021, Sydney had its very own statement. So it's called the Sydney Statement, which is building bridges between believers from different religions. And basically it outlines the context of our world, our city, our voice, the acknowledgement of the traditional custodians, Sydney itself being a multicultural and multi-religious city, our values, as I mentioned before, the dignity of the human person, life, freedom, equality, safety and security, etc. And our principles as a nation, multiculturalism, citizenship, democracy, and all those. And so I guess as an opportunity, this might be a little framework on how we can continue to have that conversation or engage in championing for people seeking asylum and refugees through our dialogue of life, living our faith in our everyday relations with others. The dialogue of action, working together on social issues based on shared values. The dialogue of knowledge, sharing about our doctrines, creeds, moralities, and practices so that we can understand one another. And the dialogue of religious experience, sharing our spiritualities, which we're doing in this gathering here this evening. So we invite everyone to look at this statement here. It was developed by the young people of different religions all across Sydney in 2021. So hearing the voices of young people to champion about the importance of different communities, different religions coming together is what will make our society much more livable. And then, as I said, how can we champion and advocate for changes to improve to those who come to Australia as a person seeking asylum or refugee? You might be meeting with your MP to discuss people on bridging visas, moving into permanent visas to allow family reunion, perhaps donating to organizations working with people seeking asylum and refugees. Maybe it's support through material aid, such as donating to food banks, volunteering with organizations to teach English, helping with resumes, and helping with childcare, etc. So there's just some particular examples there. I guess one little program that I'm involved in my professional life as an oral health therapist is through the Dental Hygienists Association of Australia, where last year we started an oral health promotion pilot program focusing on new migrants, refugees, and people seeking asylum. And so it was an opportunity for dental hygienists and for the dental profession to see where we could give back to the community. And so the committee identified that asylum seekers are known to be one of the most disadvantaged populations in Australia. And we identified an opportunity for an intervention of oral health promotion through this population. So the reason behind it is to reduce the inequalities of oral health by improving oral health literacy to this population and access to preventive oral health care services. So how is it conducted? Different volunteers across the nation led oral health promotion sessions, focusing on World Oral Health Day and Dental Health Week. And so each session was about presenting one of the key messages of oral health messages for the Australian public, and then individualized or personalized oral health instruction by the volunteers. So this is just an example of the different oral health messages that were given to these individuals. And just as some examples, in New South Wales, in Western Australia, here in New South Wales, this is a migrant family from Sri Lanka. Some of them are refugees and some of them are asylum seekers. In Victoria, in South Australia. And what we've found with the pilot program is that we saw that 261 people had participated, and we noticed that a lot of the individuals were young people coming here into Australia. And how people found out was through word of mouth, through their school, through online, social media, etc. We asked about their knowledge of oral health. Some of them knew a lot, some of them didn't know too much. And we focused on different things about their oral health. And looking at the results of the participation is we had about 393 participants last year participating in this program. And so in 2024, we've had another opportunity to deliver oral health again to this important community. So in terms of the organizations and stakeholders that also help support this, one example is the Jesuit Refugee Services, which accompanies and advocates and serves people seeking asylum and refugees. And they support 3,000 clients a year through their casework team, employment support programs, food bank services, women's space, and run community activities. So if anyone wants to make a practical change right now, they can go to their food bank, or in need of, at the moment, they're in need of donations of basmati rice, actually. So if you want to know more about the work of Jesuit Refugee Service and how you can get involved, you can contact Zoe on the following email address there, zoe.grayan@jrs.org.au. And another organization that we work with is with the Community Migrant Resource Center, which is, there's a couple of centers based in Castle Hill, Ryde, and in Parramatta. And they're a non-for-profit charitable organization established in 1996, and they're a leader in the provision of specialized support services to newly arrived migrants, refugees, and humanitarian entrants. Another thing that is an opportunity for us of people of different faith to come together is the Sydney Alliance Voices for Power. So basically being a voice for bringing people of different cultural, religious, and community leaders together to build collective power and organize clean and affordable energy solutions for our communities. So this image here is just meeting the local MP at Stanhope Gardens at the time, with different leaders of our communities from different religions, and being able to have that voice, because a lot of our migrants don't have English as their first language, but it's an opportunity that our leaders should listen to, because a lot of the communities, especially here in Western Sydney, are from cultural and linguistic diverse backgrounds. So we have an opportunity to do that. Recently, a number of leaders from different religions and different communities came together to do a workshop talking about their experience of consumers and their experience of the energy system, about energy bills and all those sorts of things, how to navigate the system, how do we contact our energy suppliers about understanding your bills, etc. So an opportunity for the different leaders in our different communities of different faith is to try and make that process a lot more easier for our communities to understand the energy sector. And so just recently, there's been two achievements from the Voices for Power, where the Australian Energy Regulators confirmed that the board has endorsed updating the word of priority 1 to include an acknowledgement of the importance of consumer access to interpreter services, particularly for consumers already experiencing vulnerability, and that the Compliance and Enforcement Branch will monitor retailer and distributor compliance in this space moving forward. So they're happy to continue to meet with the Voices for Power and to stage a 3-stage workshop to improve the protections for people struggling to pay their energy bills. And so having an opportunity as people of different faiths, different religions, to build those relationships with different people to make society more easier for us to live. And lastly, the Blacktown Network of Faith Communities, which is a network of many religious organizations in Blacktown with common interest in helping communities via joint activities and events and charitable activities. So just recently, different leaders from different communities were able to participate in the Blacktown City Festival Parade in a show of solidarity for different communities, different faiths. And we know that in Western Sydney, we know that a bulk of our communities come from different backgrounds, different faiths, and it's an opportunity for us to say that we're proud to be who we are as different people, but also sharing in those different commonalities and different aspects of what makes us relatable to one another. So I guess these are just some practical activities of what's happening in our own communities. And I encourage each one of you and all of us to continue to have that conversation in building our own communities, to work together and make this society a great place. Just lastly, a quote: "At its heart, the call to eradicate modern slavery and human trafficking is a call to make a choice for respecting the intrinsic and inalienable dignity of every human person." So this is Archbishop Fisher of Sydney. And we also acknowledge the impact of commercial activities, including our own, can have on vulnerable people through the practice of modern slavery. we have a responsibility to take practical action to manage these risks, create change, and to ultimately eradicate modern slavery. And as people of different faiths, different religions, different backgrounds, we all have a responsibility. We all share in that responsibility. And hopefully it's an opportunity for us to continue to champion for the flight of people coming into this country, especially those that are refugees and people seeking asylum. Thanks so much.
Okay, thanks Ian for that talk. There were so many statistical data there that I wasn't aware of. So it would be nice to expand on that in our discussion. Don't know whether anybody's hand is on. So no one has yet raised their hands for asking questions. While they're doing that, maybe, well, okay, Yon, go ahead, Yon, if you have a question.
Hello, how are you, Yon? Thank you very much for your lecture. Talk about the coming of the refugees and migrants, especially children and women. At the moment in Australia, we had people crying. You talk about listening. Okay, in Australia, at the moment we are crying that we have no housing, not enough housing settlement for even for Australian people to rent or to stay. How you could accommodate all the refugees and asylum seekers once they get here, and if we have to relocate them into the countryside, and therefore because they're nothing in the city anyway, too expensive in the city to stay anyway, so we have to relocate them to the countryside, and therefore the future of the kids, they probably will become farmer or peasants. So indirectly, are we going to create a generation of modern slavery when they have to grow agriculture and irrigation and infrastructure in a remote area? Because even essential service workers in the city will need to be encouraged to relocate into the countryside. So how are you going to accommodate that sort of notion of modern slavery? And equal, then you want equal justice and equality between human beings.
Thanks for that great question. It's a very complex question that you mentioned there, Jung, and I think there's no one solution, or at the same time, as I mentioned in my presentation, that we only have to look at the principle of the dignity of human person, and we most of us, unless we are Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander, we're all either migrants or descendants of migrants to this country, and so I don't think it's fair to say that we should deny the same rights of those fleeing their countries to have a better chance of living here in Australia. And yes, all those economical challenges of housing and all those sorts of things, yes, they're huge things that need to be answered. And I guess in this evening's format, maybe all those things cannot be answered in the one question, but perhaps as migrants, or perhaps as people who are already aware of the flight, and we are already talking about the importance of the dignity of the human person is so important, because we all want to treat each other the same way as we want to be treated. And so it's giving that respect and being able to work together with different people of different faiths, different religions. And that's what makes this country, Australia, so unique in its multiculturalism, because we are, I guess, an example of how different people of different cultures can live harmoniously in this country. And it's a great opportunity for us to continue to champion that. So it's not an easy answer to say, but when we listen and we discuss and we have those small actions that I've mentioned there, whether it's, just being present, parading, or the little examples of talking about, answering, trying to address how to read your bills. You just start with little things that will help our own communities, because there's little actions. We never know what I guess for myself is whatever God's will would be for us. And I guess as our calling on whatever we are called to do, we trust that we can, what we're doing is for the benefit of humanity, and that we can ensure that everyone has the rights to live in a safe place and to live joyously in harmony. So I guess that's my short answer for you.
Thank you, Ian. And talk about the communication services. The big company like energy company, the big ones, they always have interpreting and translation service or translating services, and always ready, and it's on a national operation standard. So any people who come here, and if they've been informed properly, they will know where to ring and where to ask. So therefore, the role of the people who guide them is very important. Give them instruction and everything is very important, guide them, because they just like lost angels. They're the angels from overseas, and they come here and they get lost in a new planet. And our job is to guide the angels around, and we got to do it properly. Thank you.
Just a comment on what you've mentioned there. I think for a lot of those that don't have English as their first language, in terms of communication, perhaps the first thing is, if you've got to put yourself in someone's shoes. Okay, a bill has come into their home, but it's overpriced, and then they would have to approach that electric company or the energy supplier. Why is it like this? Or how do I change it? And I think it's important that the education about the literacy of energies, how to understand it in our own languages is important, even if it's not your first language. And there's been a lot of experiences of people, yes, they can ring the interpreter service, but how quick does that happen? Or you call this number and then sometimes you might have to wait for a certain period of time. So I think it's an opportunity for us to improve the sector, to improve communications, not just in the energy sector, but in all sectors, whether it's health, in education. We have all opportunities to improve the communications and improve the efficiencies, and that it requires us who are already here in this country to educate our own members of society, whether it doesn't have to be your own different culture or whatever, but even in our own religious groups, to help that education and literacy of whatever it is, oral health literacy, energy literacy, health literacy, etc. So I guess as a human being relating to another human being, we have that responsibility to lift everyone up.
Yeah, thank you very much. Like Ukraine language is an immersion language. There's something like that. The language that hadn't been spoken in Australia, years ago, like Ukraine language, Afghanistan language, I think. So, we call them immersion languages. Therefore, we should be looking into that area. Thank you very much, Ian.
Okay, the next person is Colin. Please ask your question.
And thank you, Ian, for your talk, and I enjoyed it. And I heard something on the news this morning, and now I know why I heard it, because I didn't know it was World Refugee Day. And what an excellent way to learn about the problem from your or the situation from your presentation. But Jung raised the question of how to integrate refugees into the economy, and what I heard on the radio this morning kind of matches what you said about they should feel they are important, and in fact they are, because the news, there was some research by business leaders and the Diversity Council, and the research concluded that there are 620,000 hidden workers who offer an untapped solution to the national skills shortage. So really they are important and we need them. And it's predicted that they would boost the Australian economy by $70 billion over 10 years and increase employment. So I think there's obviously the human dignity is at the heart of it all, but from a practical viewpoint, economical viewpoint, we really do need them.
Thanks, Colin, for that comment. And it's so true that, you know, Australia wouldn't be where it is because of migrants, and you know, throughout all of history of all different nations, without migrants coming to this country, we wouldn't be what they say, Australia, the place where we have the many opportunities. And obviously there's lots of different struggles that we still have in this country. But I guess through that reconciliation and understanding, and what we're doing this evening, discussing about different solutions, different ways of building bridges together between our different faiths and understanding one another, is part of that process in making this country the place where we live. So thank you.
Okay, and the next person is Sivalingam.
Yeah.
Please present your comments and questions.
Yeah. I would like to ask you something regarding, I understand a lot of refugees, religious persecuted refugees are in Australia. And I want to know how many type of persecuted refugees are there. I know from China there are some, from Iran there are some. And what is the government doing to settle these refugees? If you know something, throw some light on it.
It's a good question. I'll honestly say I don't have the answer to that. And we know that persecution in many of these countries is very prevalent, and so why we have an opportunity as people in this country to really push and advocate to our governments about changing what's happening in people who are facing persecution. Obviously, there's a fine balance on diplomacy and all of those sorts of things. But as I said, at the end of the day, about treating humans and the importance of human dignity of each individual is at the core of why we want to ensure that all have an opportunity and make all equal. So in regards to different particular countries, etc., I mean, that's why we have different policies and different all those sorts of things, and different I guess it's a very difficult landscape on the flight of refugees, and unless we continue these conversations and maybe, you know, as I said, you know, meeting with our local members, or perhaps discussing it within our own faith communities, being aware, talking to our own friends and family, being aware of this current situation, then perhaps that conversation about people from different countries coming into this land doesn't become so distant, because they're just any other human like we are. So it's just about continuing that conversation.
Okay, Siva, you're next.
Thank you, Ian. It's a wonderful presentation and well researched. And I'm really proud of you, what you have been doing in Australia to the society. The, the key principle of human dignity, you mentioned that it is God given right. And also you mentioned that in Christianity and likewise in all the other religions, that we are all created in the image of God. And that makes us as one. So we are all one. And if we all keep this in our mind, that we are all one, and the sufferings of others is suffering of us. I like to ask a question, because we need people like you to work and promote these ideas. How are you mobilizing the younger generation to think and act in this way? And how successful are you?
It's a good question. I guess one of those examples, as I mentioned, is that the Sydney Statement, which was developed by young people all across Sydney, and that was championed through the initiatives of Multicultural New South Wales and Youth Power, which is basically youth of the Parliament, youth of the world's Parliament of Religions. So an opportunity from the Club and Center of Christian Muslim Relations to seek out different people from young people from all across the different religions to discuss about what is affecting them in their everyday lives. And one of those issues is about refugees and people seeking asylum in this country. So it's already in the minds of young people about how they want to live their future, about how they want to ensure that, you know, a lot of the young people are also maybe children of migrants to this country. And so finding their own identity is an important thing for young people, and how they fit in society and how they want to shape society to be. And so it's already talked about in their own conversations, whether it's in their schools, at universities, people that are engaged in their own workspaces. I mean, it doesn't have to be young people, but even where people work, it's already a conversation starter about how we want to live and where we want Australia to be. And so, as all your wonderful comments mentioned about the contribution of migrants to this country, and we also have to recognize the richness of the Indigenous people of this country as well, because you know, recognizing people of all different faiths and all different religions is a very core topic amongst young people. And I think, you know, whether it's social media, through youth gatherings, through music, through role models, sporting stars, there's endless opportunities for young people to see what matters to them. And unless you have those role models, or whether they are singers, they're sportsmen, or whatever field they come from, young people draw to those individuals. And if those people become champions for refugees and people seeking asylum, then I think that's another opportunity for young people to draw on their example. And so it's an opportunity that, you know, even for the young at heart, to encourage our young people, even in their own faith. A lot of we know in the current statistics in Australia show that people are identifying with no religion, and people are identifying being agnostic or of having no faith. And as people of faith here in this forum, we recognize the importance of faith, no matter what faith you are. And we only have to look at our young people if we can instill and educate or at least empower our young people to live out their faith in their everyday context, then I think that's a great example already in our own local churches, in our own local mosques, temples, communities, etc., to empower young people to be challenged and to change what's happening in our own suburbs, in our cities, and in the world.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm almost next, but I'll give my place to Adrian first, and then I'll ask you some questions.
I was really struck by Jung's comments about people who can't afford to live in Sydney or Melbourne and moving to the country. I've noticed watching the program Backroads how many communities were enriched by migrants, asylum seekers, refugees, starting up life in a small country community. And it's a wonderful two-way process where not only do they get to understand some of the Aussie songs and the Aussie traditions, but the community is enriched by the visitors or the new arrivals' music, cuisine, lots and lots of examples of how the community is enriched by having these different cultures living among them. And above all, I don't know whether it's the fact that it's easier in a small country community to make friends and to reach out and to get to know everyone, which is very difficult in a city. But the resulting cohesion in the community and the friendships that develop are really inspiring. And I noticed that music does help. I'm a part of Ian's faith community in Seven Hills, and Ian and his wife are talented musicians. And so not only are we singing in English, but we're singing in Vietnamese, in Filipino. It's a wonderful introduction to the fact that we in Australia, down one corner of the world, are now getting exposed to the richness of other cultures and other music. And it's one way of really helping Australians to become aware of the richness of other cultures. And we have a long way to go, as the referendum vote last year showed that there is still a very deep-seated racist strain in New Zealand, in Australia, and anything we can do to overcome that is a wonderful step forward. So what we're experiencing just in our own community with the richness of other cultures is most appreciated.
Thanks, Adrian, for that comment. And no, it's very true. You only have to step outside your door, especially in this multicultural city of Sydney. If you're looking for pasta, you just go down to wherever you want pasta. I mean, I'm a food lover, so if you want kebabs or whatever, you can find a place. If you want adobo Filipino food, you just go there. You want Vietnamese banh mi or whatever, it's there. So I think the embracing what the different cultures come and how they shape this nation is so important. And we are very lucky to have that understanding of different cultures. And as Adrian mentioned, in our own faiths, in our own religions, the different traditions of people's faith from overseas and bringing that into the Australian culture of religion. And I guess just one example, perhaps in the Catholic Church is, yes, it's originally founded on most of the Irish that came to Australia in the early 1800s or in the early history of Australia. But the Catholic Church now in Australia has a much more wider, I guess, openness in a sense that has embraced the other cultures of different people of different lands, different religions, to help shape where the Catholic Church is today. And I would probably say that it would be the same in many of our other faiths. I guess, Julie, for one example, in the Uniting Church, I believe there's a lot of new migrants from Pacific Islander nations that have continued to shape where the Uniting Church of Australia is to reflect the culture of the identity of the church.
Yeah, we have a Fijian language service at our church, and there's a Tongan language service at Blacktown Centre. So it's certainly quite a wide cultural diversity within the Uniting Church. Yes, particularly for Pacific Islanders. Yeah.
Okay, my turn. And first of all, I have to say, Adrian, I follow that program, and it's amazing that so many migrants have, been involved in local areas, and they have a big impact in the society in local areas, and it would be nice to see more of that. Your talk raised a number of questions for me. First of all, you showed a lot of statistical data, and it would be nice if we could provide that to see so that we could share that, because flashing them on the screen wasn't, slow enough for me to grab all the statistical data that you had. Obviously, you showed clearly that migrants do help the society at large. My other question, if I remember, is that while we let me be a devil's advocate. When we see these things in news where a massive number of migrants in UK go into a street and have community prayer, I mean the Muslims mostly, and use the faith towards certain avenues of forcing some concepts to the society. And I think whether the barrier has been blurred a bit. So is there a danger there that migrants can cause problems at large? I was just wondering what's your views on that?
Just to answer your question about the slides, I'm happy to provide those to see if Annie can distribute those. And you can find all of the statistics on the Australian Bureau of Statistics, as well as a number of the Australian government websites on the Department of Home Affairs. You can find all that information there. Regarding the question about is there a detriment to multiculturalism, or the disadvantages of enforcing particular beliefs and what happens in society at large, it's a very big question, in a sense that we as people of faith, we have the opportunity, or we have a responsibility rather, to ensure that we respect each individual. And I think we may know in our own faiths, some people may take liberties of their own faiths to a different extreme. And so it at the core of many religions, and the core of all religions, is to love one another and to ensure that there's peace and harmony in amongst all different people. And perhaps there's some individuals from different communities that may take liberations with their teachings of their faith. And so to say that, a particular faith can cause problems in society, I don't think it's the faith itself, but rather the actions of individuals that make a bad name for a particular, whether it's different religions or different faiths, or how people perceive a particular community. And so the challenge is for us as people of different religions is to understand those different faiths, in a sense, that perhaps understanding more about other people's faiths, other different cultures, that will help to enhance our own faith, our own cultures, so that we can, tensions and all those sort of things are not so present, in a sense, because we already understand the other perspective of another person. So, and I think that's in our everyday conversations, our everyday interactions with people. Yes, there are those things that happen, but we have the responsibility, maybe within our own communities, to really say or to really champion to particular individuals that, this is how we should live out our faith, essentially.
Yeah, before I give the floor to the others, I'll have one more question to ask you, because you help people, migrants, for their gas supplies, electricity supplies, and their bills and things like that. I'd like to say a story here that last year I had the same problem. I believe that greed is taking over all these companies. My gas supplier was overcharging me, and after 6 months of persuading them, they did not accept that they are overcharging, and I was forced to change my suppliers. Now, in migrants with no language or poor language, what chance they have to, help themselves in this modern world? I just got a bill that is raised by $100 from last year. So greed is taking over everywhere.
Yes, as I said in my presentation, that our communities of different religions, different faiths, are already working with the Australian Energy Regulator to change what's happening, or to improve communications. And as I said before, there's now an acknowledgement that the importance of consumer access, interpreter services is all provided in fair time and all those sorts of things. So there's now a push amongst different, companies or energy retailers, etc., to ensure that they're looking after their customers or to their clients, or etc. And so the space is changing. The space is changing. But it does require each of us to continue to discuss those things and empower our own communities about that. And it does take time, but there are already some small changes and small wins. And I hope that, come in the next kind of years, maybe we look at an ideal scenario where you just dial a particular number and they already know who you are. They know what you need. They know what your problem is. They'll have it in your own language. That's the ideal situation. And I think a lot of these things can be achievable through the work of our communities, working with the sector, working with how it all operates. But it also requires a bit of understanding on our part about the sector and how it's changing, etc. So it's just a short answer there, but it is quite complex. But there is movement already happening to change and make it a better experience for all consumers, not just people of different backgrounds, but also for any customer, really. And why competition happens and all those sorts of things. This is if companies and the sector really wants us to stay with them, then they will focus on the importance of the customer and what their needs are. And so I think it's an obligation, or it's an opportunity that the sectors can make that happen.
Okay, I think Rosine is next because she hasn't spoken yet. So after that, I'll give the floor to the others.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I would like, first of all, to encourage and to congratulate Ian. It was a very nice presentation, and what you are doing is very, very noble. So I just wanted to share also my experiences on how to encourage young people to empathize with the refugees. Yeah, what I wanted to share, I have two different points. So the first is the principle of the virtues, because the virtues, for example, like compassion and justice, can already prepare the young people for tomorrow to become adults they will handle with justice the world. I have the experiences because this virtues project I'm doing with my children. And for example, last week, the topic was justice. And I asked after the election, the communal election here, because my children, they were asking me when I went to vote. And then I asked my kids, I said, if you would be, for example, the president, what you gonna do? And my other son, he said, me, first of all, I would like that everybody in this world have the same life standard. Why there are people, they are living so good, the others are poor or suffering. He said, I don't like it. This is not just. And if I would be the president, I will drop the prices that everybody will be capable to live in the comfort. And the other one, for example, we went to the train station and one refugee was there. He was looking so badly. I saw him, I was shocked. And I realized the children also, they remarked him. And my third son, sorry, I was in my mind, I was about to help him. I was thinking what I can give to him. And then my third son, he came to me and said, Mama, why you don't give something to him or something like a money that he can buy some food? And then I was shocked. I was like, maybe he just answered to my doubt. And then I didn't have any food. And I took some money and I said, okay, let's go and talk to him. So he came, and the first question he asked the man, what happened to you? Why are you like this? What happened to your foot? Why you don't have shoes? What? I couldn't say anything. My tears were already full of my eyes, but I didn't want to cry because it's gonna make the others also sad. And then he took the money and said, please go now, buy something to eat. And I don't want you to be there. What can I do for you? And this question, when we were on the way back inside the train, I was thinking about that the children, they already have compassion. So for me, I really believe this spiritual education can bring tomorrow our world in a better place, because without this education, it's not going to be easy for human beings to understand why I have to empathize with my others people, why I have to accept those people who doesn't have the same skin color like me, or they came from another places. But when you understand that we are human beings and you develop the principle of justice or compassion, then it's going to be also easier to understand it better. And the second principle, I use this one also with my friends. It's about, because I'm doing also yoga, it's a principle of the chakras. If somebody learned the yogas, you will understand there is 7 chakras. And for example, when the human body didn't harmonize or activate all the 7 chakras, it's not easy for our body and our spirit to come in harmony. And when we are not in harmony, it's not going to be easy for us to manifest all the positive energies, because our emotions are the energies which are giving us the power to live. So why I use this example? Because the 7 chakras, the last one, the one on top of our head, the principle is the unity. Yes. And that means if we don't accept us as human beings that we are one, we are brothers and sisters, nothing gonna work in this world. And the prophet of the Baha'i religion, Baha'u'llah, also confirmed this principle when he says that the human being is like one family. We are like the tree. We are like the wave of one tree. We are like the wave of one ocean. So when somebody learned the yoga, somebody can understand this principle clearly, that the 7 chakras, it's symbolizing the united and we are one. So the principle of unity, it's very, very important. Without united, the word united is not gonna be possible that somebody gonna be happy in this world. So, and justice on the side. That's why I said, just want to share with you, you can try to implement the virtue project also inside your, I don't know, your movement, and encourage the young people, to understand this principle. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Rosine. It's something I wasn't aware of. So thank you for sharing that with us. And I guess it's a great opportunity, and the examples that you've given, how young children, they see and they tell you what it is for what it is. And you only have to look at the children as an example of, what we want the world to be like. And so thank you for sharing that. Where are you calling from, actually?
From Germany.
From Germany. Okay. Wonderful.
We are a worldwide forum. Thanks, Rosine. I think perhaps the solution to issue of migration is world peace. If we have world peace, a lot of problems would disappear. The next person is Jung again. If you would like to present your
thank you. Thank you. I won't be long. I could answer Rosine questions to Ian. I think for unity, it is a very easy question. If you think about all the jobs in the big city who have already lost because all the important job been outsources, right? All the big job outsources, and now we have artificial intelligence to replace human work. Okay, so the refugee and asylum seeker, when they turn up here, we interview them, we give them a map, and we say, can you do university study in the city for 8 months, and the rest of the year you go to the countryside to work as a laborer or a farmer to produce some potatoes for us. And then they will have multi-skill. Because skill shortage, we need production, we need products. And therefore, they have multi-skills, they can find a job easily, and they can just, look after themselves for the rest of their life with 2 jobs, the white collar payment, blue collar payments, and that is unity. That is unity, and that will help them to open the chakra, the universe knowledge. If you don't do your mind and your labor, you won't develop, like universe knowledge. You got to know everything. Multi-skilling, and you help with the labor, you produce a lot of potato, you feed the generations. So that'd be good. So that's how unity. And chakra, the crown spot, that's all they help you. Otherwise, if you don't believe me, just try them. You got to give them, the new people, the map, and show them where they're going to be sent to. And that's all compassion. We not torture them. This is compassion. You work in Sydney, 8 months, the rest, you go to do labor, farming.
Thanks for that comment, Jung. I think a number of refugees, people seeking asylum, yes, there are people that are fleeing from war or from poverty or or from persecution. I think there are other types of refugees that that are highly skilled, and I guess it's about our Australian policies that, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on the situation, may force these people to go into different communities, into remote communities. But at the same time, a lot of people that do come to this country have high skills, and perhaps maybe in this country there are some skills that we don't that are enriched through migration. And so, there's always a shortage of nurses, for example, in the health sector, or specialists and doctors, and a lot of migrants that do come to this country have may have postgraduate degrees, etc. And we are very thankful that their contributions can help make society in Australia what it is to be. So yes, there are different types of people that come here for different reasons, and I think it's that uniqueness that in our Australian policies that do need to change, so that people who come to this country who have the different skills and the different needs can make that contribution here in Australia.
Jung, I think we have to give the migrants opportunity to grow and develop, but forcing them to certain directions or going to rural areas to do certain works is some kind of slavery, really, and we shouldn't do it that way. We should give opportunity for them to direct themselves towards whatever would be the best for them to live in the society.
I mean, what am I answering? Because I just said, if you want to have chakra, the crown spot open, that's what they should do. Because they got to be a perfect human being, perfectionist. And that's not on theory, you got to do some action. I mean, people have to do some work.
Yeah, but forcing them, it's kind of a slavery. Okay, next person is Colin again.
Yeah, today has been, I'm very happy about today, because I've had this question for several years now, and the question was, how can I help if I'm walking past a homeless person? And of course, asylum seekers is a form of homelessness. What do I say? What can I do? Because I'm not a social service agency. I wouldn't even know what's available. And so I sort of stuck wondering what's the answer to this question. And it got answered 3 times today. Firstly, in a reading at a memorial service in Adelaide, and I'll share it on the screen briefly if it's all right. And that is from the writings of Baha'u'llah: flee not from the face of the poor that lieth in the dust, nay, rather befriend him and suffer him to recount the tale of the woes with which God's inscrutable decree has caused him to be afflicted. And then, Ian, you answered that in a similar way. You talked about human dignity. What can we do at the personal level? You said we can hear their story and understand their suffering. And then Rosine said, gave a very practical and immediate example of how beautifully that works. So I just want to thank Ian and Rosine and my good fortune in having my question answered. Thank you.
Thanks, Colin. I think what you've mentioned there, it's just the sharing of and the weaving of all our different stories that what helps us embrace the different joys of life. And I'm ever grateful for whatever blessings we receive. And so what you've mentioned there and the experiences that everyone has mentioned this evening is an opportunity of how humanity can work together and how it is to be human, because we we all share the same problems, the same difficulties in our lives, but through I think through community, through talking with one another or supporting one another in whatever way it is, this is how we get through our own struggles in our own lives. And I think in all our faith traditions and all our faith backgrounds, the different scripture passages that you've all mentioned, the quotes, etc., give us that guidance, that life, that inspiration to continue to live and live for those who are less fortunate than us.
Thank you, Ian. If you look into socialist doctrine, then you see how they do with the young people and with the people from the different land. And if you look into the capitalist system study, you got to compare two systems and you see how people, they don't talk about religion. They don't talk about the chakra. They don't talk about the crown spot. But if you have to go through history to see what people do. So that's what I'm just remind people. That's all it is. Thank you.
Well, it seems today, in this day, that those systems are not functioning properly, and perhaps the world has to come up with a new way of world order, and helping to come with a better way of living in the world. At this time, I think there are a few people that haven't talked. Maybe Andrew, if you have any questions, Andrew Mitsubishi or Jiva, would you like to say anything?
Who actually spoke, but sorry, Andrew Mutumbushi.
Yeah, or Jiva didn't spoke. Well, Siva, actually, you had raised your hand before, but you dropped it. So I wonder whether you have still a question to ask.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you have time, Ian, or we have other things to do?
Well, it's 8:49. We've got about 10 minutes of normal time, but if there's no questions, we can.
What about Ian? Do you have time?
I guess if you have a small question.
Okay, I think I was going to ask about the convention or the refugee convention, and so Australia is a signatory to the convention, but their policies are not complying to the convention. So what is being done, or is the Sydney Alliance or anything like that, are they trying to do something about it?
Yeah, I guess, the Sydney Alliance, for those of you that don't know, is a collective of different people of different faiths and different religions, different backgrounds, etc., to really focus and push those issues that matter to us. And if that means discussing those things with our local representatives, our councillors, our politicians, etc., then we have to have that voice, especially people of different backgrounds, different migrants. Perhaps maybe in the mainstream media, our voices are not as heard as much as other cultures. And so by allowing, I guess, how the Sydney Alliance allows and champions voices of different backgrounds, different religions, different migrant communities to have a say, it gives us the confidence to really put the pressure on our leaders to follow what they've actually signed, such as the UN Convention, those sorts of things. And unless we make that noise or that voice, or we don't say anything about it, then obviously nothing gets done. And so it's why why we come together and when we are united in that same voice, then that's how we can really tell our leaders who we elect ourselves to make those changes. Because at the end of the day, their job is to listen to their constituents, and as people of this country who are who follow the Australian law and have an opportunity to make change. We do that in ways that are, in a sense, collaboratively and working together in the right frames, the right rules and regulations to ensure that the things that we want change or improved happen.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
Siva,
you.
do you have sorry, Siva, do you have more questions?
No, I think we close.
I just have one in. You're participating in a number of organizations. I'd like to know what motivates you to do those sort of things, which is interesting.
I guess it's the fundamentals of my faith, essentially, living out the way that Christ wants us to live, and if it means in our everyday situations, in our everyday encounters with different people, with different whoever we encounter, treating them the same as we'd like to be treated. It comes naturally, in a sense. It's not a, it's a to-do list or something like that. It becomes a way of life, the way of how we ought to live. And I think that's what kind of motivates me to do the things that I do, because it helps me to become a better person itself.
Oh yeah, thank you, Ian. It was fantastic. I love what you said just now. Very nice talk. I'm not sure whether Siva, I think we probably done enough for the night. So
thank you very much. And Ian, probably you can recommend some of your fellow young people to come and share their experience and thoughts, so that in whatever way we can motivate fellow young generation around the world, because they have the power and energy and the strength to change the world. Thank you, and God bless you.
yeah, Ian, please share your slides with Siva so that we can go in depth and study them. Specifically those statistics that you showed.
Thank you.